Hi, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed English, and here we have another C1 Advanced Writing task for feedback. This time it is a proposal. Here we have our rubric, so let's get started. So you see this notice on the website for your town or city council. The council is planning to honour a local hero connected with our area. The local hero can be someone well known or an ordinary citizen. He or she could be still living or could be someone from history. Residents are invited to send in proposals identifying a deserving person, giving reasons for their choice, and suggesting a suitable way in which this hero should be honoured. So there we have our three content points. Now let's take a look at the task itself and see how we get on. In response to your invitation, I am writing to suggest a local hero who deserves to be honoured. I didn't know him personally, but he was one of the best person I have ever heard about. My choice. His name was Marlov, an old plumber, always kind and gentle with his neighbourhood. On the 21st of April last year, a tremendous earthquake destroyed most of our city, including our wonderful church, which fell into pieces. He was supposed to stay safe, far from any buildings, when, passing by what remained of the church, he heard someone screaming. Suddenly, he called a fireman who came for help alone. Other rescuers were busy elsewhere. Marlov, without thinking twice, began digging barehanded. In less than 3 hours, that woman had been rescued. Why I chose him. My main reason for choosing him is that even if everyone was somehow helping out, he was 72 years old. He could have stepped aside waiting for others to come, but he didn't. Furthermore, he took care of that woman until she completely recovered. I don't know if it was for an adrenaline rush or something similar, but his bravery is worth remembering. Honoring my hero. If Marlov is chosen, I would suggest honoring him with a special celebration. It could be known as the Marlov Day, maybe right on the 21st of April, a day when everyone chooses to help someone in need, as Marlov did last year with that woman. Okay, well, in terms of the content, I think we've done a pretty good job here, writer. Well done. We've identified a deserving person. We have given reasons for the choice. That's all very clear. And we have a suitable way in which the hero could be honored in a way that kind of expands the idea just beyond that first person. So I like it. I think that this is all the content is relevant to the task. And I would say that the target reader is fully informed. So I would say that that's a good 5. Now, when we move on to communicative achievement, we need to start considering the conventions of the task. So it's a proposal, so it needs to be pretty formal, and it's quite formal throughout, so I think that's okay. We're also looking for the appropriate use of headings. I would say that the headings are quite good. I mean, somebody reading the proposal would be able to see which section contains the information for each of the content points. I think that a better choice for the first subheading would be maybe the name of the person. So Marlov, the local plumber. So we know that it's going to be about a local hero. Um, Instead of saying my choice, you could actually tell us what that choice is in the heading. So it's a small bone to pick. I don't think it matters too greatly. So in terms of communicating ideas, the ideas are generally well communicated. We've got in the last paragraph, I like this idea. It's a day when everyone chooses to help someone in need, as Marlov did last year with that woman. That's a good explanation for why this would be an appropriate way to honor that hero. Why I chose him. Here, I'm not so sure if it's a well explained idea. Talking about the ideas kind of move from place to place a little bit. Um, and I'm not entirely sure what the first sentence means really. If it means that um, even though everyone was somehow helping out, he was 72 years old and he could have stepped aside waiting for others to come, but he didn't. I think that's good, but you could take that point a bit further, really explain it. Furthermore, he took care of that woman until she completely recovered. What does that mean? I mean, how badly injured was she? Did she need months of physiotherapy so that she could get back on her feet? I'm not entirely sure what that's referring to. And then in this idea of introducing an adrenaline rush or something similar, possibly. But again, you could you could explain it a different way. You could say, I like the second part, his bravery is worth remembering. That's good. But the first part, you could say, we can never know what drove him to this action, whether it was simply spur of the moment or if it was a deeper character trait. But his bravery on that day is worth remembering. So that idea could have been developed a bit better. So the ideas here lack development, and that would go under communicative achievement. The first one, I think, is generally okay as well. We've got some ideas of what he did and why. So yeah, I would say that that would be a 3 because the ideas are well communicated. It reads mostly like a proposal would. It's a slightly unusual proposal because it's not really business related, but still, yeah, okay. Organization. Well, the organization is generally okay because we have paragraphs and each paragraph contains 1 point which is developed. The text itself is generally well balanced. We have a little bit more in the first paragraph explaining who the person was and what they did, but that's okay because that requires more explanation. The next 2, which are a bit shorter, build on that initial explanation, so the lack of balance there isn't very important. I think that the paragraphs themselves are quite well organized. There are a few places where a bit more could have been done to tie the sentences together. Um, this sentence just here. Suddenly he called a fireman who came for help alone. Other rescuers were busy elsewhere. We'll look at this again for the language, but I think it's quite good that I think it works having the colon just there. I think that's okay. I would say that it's generally all right for the organization. Like I say, there are places where we could have a little bit more glue to tie the sentences together. For example, in this last paragraph, if Marlov is chosen, I would suggest honoring him with a special occasion that could be known as Marlov Day on the 21st of April, which was the date of the earthquake. Yeah, or instead of saying on the 21st of April, an organizational technique would be a link back saying the anniversary of the earthquake, because I mean that is a way of organizing because you're referring back to a previous idea, a previous noun. So generally I would say that the text is organized well enough, so we're going to go for a 3 just there. And that brings us then to language, and language is always our sticking point, as we know. There are a few places where I wasn't sure what the meaning was that the writer was going for, and that's going to cause a bit of a problem on the language side. So if we go back through from the beginning, I think that the first paragraph is generally all right. There's one little problem is that I begin to get a little bit confused. Is he alive or dead? I can't tell actually. Maybe he's no longer alive. I don't think he died because of helping. I think maybe he just passed away since. I wasn't entirely sure reading it if he was alive or dead. Never mind. That's less important than I suppose it really seems to be. So his name was Marlov, an old plumber, always kind and gentle with his neighborhood. What does it mean with his neighborhood here? Can you be kind with your neighborhood? Gentle with your neighborhood? Maybe he was known in the neighborhood for his kindness and gentleness. On the blah blah blah, the earthquake, including our wonderful church, which fell into pieces. That might be a typo, so it should be fell into pieces. But the churches fall into pieces. Again, here the description is important, so we need to be very clear what we're saying. Maybe it collapsed into rubble, or it was devastated, falling in, causing a massive panic around it. I don't know, something like that, but fell into pieces, maybe not so much. He was supposed to stay safe. far from any buildings. When passing by what remained of the church, he heard someone screaming. Okay, I think it's reasonably clear what you mean here, but it's not completely clear. So what was he doing passing by what remained of the church if he was supposed to stay safe far from any buildings? He's going close to a building here. Making it a bit clearer would help the reader follow the idea a bit better. This sentence, yeah, suddenly he called a fireman who came for help alone. Other rescuers were busy elsewhere. Okay, so did Marlov work with that fireman to dig the woman out? So the fireman came for help alone. The other rescuers were busy elsewhere. I kind of figure what you mean to say here, but again, it could be a little bit clearer. In less than 3 hours, that woman had been rescued. I don't think there's a good reason to use past perfect here because you're not relating it to another past event. In less than 3 hours, the woman was rescued. We don't really need to say that woman. We know which one we're talking about. So there are little concerns here and there. Like I said, with if and though in this sentence, there's a bit of a difference there. Some of the language is good. He could have stepped aside, waiting for others to come. That's all right. His bravery is worth remembering. That's a nice expression. And the final paragraph is generally okay, but like I said, under organization, there are areas where it could be tightened up a little bit. So for the language, I'm going to go for a 2 overall. So coming to our conclusion then, we have something that would be about a pass on average, because we've got a couple of areas that are okay, they're fine. The language needs a bit of work. It just needs a little bit more thinking behind it. And if you can tighten it up and think of exactly what you want to say. So how do you do that? Well, if you've got time, and certainly if you practice, you've always got time, read through what you've written and try to give yourself fresh eyes. And the way to give yourself fresh eyes is to ask yourself, what does that mean exactly? Is it completely clear what I'm saying in this sentence? One of the biggest problems for people when they write is that before they write, they imagine. And when they imagine and then something comes out, what comes out onto the paper might not be the same as what they had here. But when they look at it again, it's this idea that they return to. And I've been guilty of this myself. When I've been writing, I've written things and I thought, oh, yeah, this really works. I can just see it all now before me. But then I give my writing to a friend and they come back quite nonplussed and they say, well, I don't really know what it was about. And I look at it again and say, well, it's perfectly clear to me. Oh, wait a minute. I've got the imagination of the scene, but I haven't got the reality of the scene here on the paper. And that's the difference maker. So go back through whenever you write something and make sure that the person who is going to read it, who doesn't have the imagination in the first place, doesn't have the vision of what you wanted to say in the first place, ask yourself, what does this mean to them? And you might find that you need to tighten up the prose a little bit, tighten it up, tighten it up. And that's why editing is so important. And there is always time to edit. If you approach the writing paper the right way, there will be time for you to do an edit. And on that note, I think we shall finish there. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you learned something from this, and I'll see you next time.